All right, not doing too well when it comes to takes tonight. So let's see if I can get this one done. This is after waivers for week 5. I see a lot of new subs. The first rule of this channel is we don't talk about this channel. So I'm gonna start talking about defenses a lot. The waivers are basically over. Like this is the bye week phase, and we're trying to plug guys in and look at matchups. So the stuff that we're looking at, I have Justin Herbert pulled up someplace to show like what we're looking for, because sometimes like we don't care how the sausage is made. So Justin Herbert was supposed to be in a high volume passing offense, and last week against the Raiders, what looked like it was going to be like a good game for him, he salvaged it by 2 rushing touchdowns. Those are not predictive. He's not a particularly scrambly guy. He is not to say that he's not an athlete, for those that want to go right in the comments. It just means that we weren't drafting him based off of this rushing floor or ceiling. And he was able to come through with those 2 rushing touchdowns. Sometimes I don't care how the sausage is made. A guy like CJ Stroud, and I have him pulled up, who's the belle of the ball this week. I don't really care that much about him. I would have cared that much about him last week. He just doesn't have the rushing upside that is necessarily needed to go compete with your like Josh Allen's and your Jalen Hurts. So I don't care, because I can replace what he does, and I can pull him up. I can replace a CJ Stroud right here, his 10, 21, 20, 21 off of 384, 2 touchdowns with a fumble, 280, 2 touchdowns, 306, 2 touchdowns. He should have had or could have had a rushing touchdown, but he didn't because it got overturned. But to show you like Brock Purdy, and I don't know if Brock Purdy is available in any leagues right now, but I can pull up a Brock Purdy, and you can see that 16, 14, 20, 21, Brock Purdy has 2 rushing touchdowns. He's a little nimbly bimbly, just like CJ Stroud is, kind of deceptively nimbly bimbly. But I can go replace this. I can get the same production and have to put up less capital to do so. So I'm not going to really go chase him. And if I want to chase him, I would have chased him last week. Again, anybody that's new, this is not a reactive channel. This is proactive. It's what should I have done the week before. So I'm not competing with everybody else, because when you're doing the same thing that everybody else is doing, you're going to get the same outcome that they do. And I would like to win my league. I don't want to come in 3rd place. So let's see. I think I said all of that. Like I could bring up CMC, but I'm not. The reason why CMC has these ridiculously high weeks is because he gets all this opportunity. He gets receiving work. He gets red zone work. That's what translates over. So his 4 touchdowns are rather predictive when based off his usage. So we're going to talk about other guys down the line that don't have the usage that CMC does, even though they look like they have a lot of usage. It's specific usage that we're looking for. His fullback, Kyle Juszczyk, is going to have fantasy relevant weeks. They're non-predictive because he's going to score a few touchdowns, and he's always done it. There's no way to know when it's going to be his week. And that's the same thing when you have like a Bijan, and we're going to talk about Bijan later, like why Bijan is not a good, I don't want to say good, why Bijan is limited based off his offense and his usage. So to continue, I already talked about Purdy. I already talked CMC and Juszczyk. Elijah Mitchell, this is basically in alphabetical order except for the 49ers because they're a number. Elijah Mitchell, he's been injured, probably no longer the handcuff for CMC. I don't know. I don't think I would have to roster him. Again, with Debo and Ayuk and Kittle, like they're just going to cannibalize each other's usage. Ayuk was very efficient with his 6 targets. You're playing with fire, so hopefully your roster's constructed to deal with that. Again, the disclaimer: don't listen to me. Run your own teams. I'm just having fun. This is not legal advice. Let's see. Moving forward with the Bears, I have a little bit of tape for those that care on Justin Fields. This is what he did in college. This is just like play action, RPO, whatever. And he just sees it, he pulls it, he grips it, he drops, he rips it, and it's a completion. That's what you want to see. And then the next play on this is a design passing play. He gets it, he sees it, he hitches, and then he throws it. And that's why he's not. This is not whatever he did against Denver. They're so bad, it's not going to be replicable. It's not going to be repeated unless he plays other bad defenses that allow him to play like this. So like. I'm selling. If you're curious, let's see. Roschon's at 22% snaps for you Roschon truthers. Herbert's at 78. But it's against a bad defense. Good news for DJ Moore and Cole Kmet. The Bears schedule looks pretty good. They're usable coming up here. Again, back to trades. Like how I do my trades is I overpay, a lot. So like getting guys off my roster by doing a trade and then throwing Fields in there, and then someone goes, "Ooh, I need to have this guy," and then they're gone. Like I'll do a 1-for-1 trade and throw Fields in there just to get a guy off my roster and have him be someone else's problem. The Bengals, I watched tape on this. I'll pull up this picture so you guys can stare at it instead of listening or watching the still. I watched the tape. Joe Burrow doesn't look very comfortable. Like some teams that we thought were going to be good are going to be bad. The Titans just dialed it up against them. And that's what happens sometimes when guys are used to having a particular part of their game and they just can't do it anymore. And this is not to say Joe Burrow is bad. It just means that like that's what teams are going to do. They're going to know that you're there's blood in the water and they're going to come after you. Mixon's at 79% snaps, but if the offense isn't good, a volume-based RB2 is going to be limited. T. Higgins is injured, so you could think about Tyler Boyd, but the offense is bad. So I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, the Bills' defense schedule is a bye. James Cook was at 40% snaps, but his touchdown run was kind of a fluke. Murray came out. He almost fumbled. Josh Allen pushed him into the end zone. Let's see. Murray's probably the handcuff there at 33% snaps. Harris at 28, the grinder. Kincaid 52, Knox 50. You're not going to be able to predict those weeks at this point. 4 weeks in, they're not going to be. Gabe Davis is still what you paid for him. Boom bust guy, and if you can predict it against the right offense, then Bob's your uncle. The Broncos are really bad. So Javonte Williams being out, P. Ryan 46% snaps, and he's just going to be the dirty work back. Jaleem McLaughlin, I've talked about him before. Camp hype guy, 33%, very efficient, 10 touches. They weren't predictive because Javonte was out. If I were to spend on him, it would be mostly to block my opponent unless I'm really hurting for running back, like for at least 1 week. Worst guys to throw in there during the bye weeks, I guess, if his usage remains consistent. Jerry Jeudy's at 63% snaps, Sutton 83, Mims 35. Mims is a guy to talk about, especially during the bye phase, because even though he had a season high in snaps and 35%, it didn't correlate to targets or receptions, but there are worse guys to be throwing out there during the bye week phase and trying to catch lightning in a bottle. So we can get cute and I throw him out. And then, this doesn't matter, but Adam Treitman was at 88% snaps. I don't even think he had a target. It's just the tight end's not relevant. Maybe when Greg Doltz comes back, who cares? They're just not good. And the biggest news is firing up pieces of other people's offenses against the Denver D. The Browns game, again, I watched this, DTR was just running around with like a chicken with his head cut off against Baltimore. So I don't really care about much of this tape. Elijah Moore is probably droppable, especially over the bye weeks. So I don't think anybody's going to pick him up. Ford was at 62% snaps, Jerome Ford. I couldn't find anything on his targets. The biggest thing I saw from the tape is he can't pass block, and that's going to probably eat into his workload. And the Cleveland schedule, let's see. The Cleveland schedule after the bye is not very good for their defense. So San Francisco, Indianapolis, that's Anthony Richardson. Seattle's probably pretty good. Arizona's been scrappy. Baltimore, I wouldn't be rolling them out again until week 11, and they may be the best defense in football. So if you're into that matchup type thing, that's what you're looking at. So you're holding. I would be holding and then streaming during that phase, until Pittsburgh, Denver, that 2 week span. So moving on to another reason why I'm not really into CJ Stroud, Baker Mayfield. He's being allowed to do what he does well and kind of being taken away from what he doesn't do well, even though he almost threw another pick that didn't happen. And you can see when he's getting 8, 6, 1, 8 rushing attempts a game, eventually that's going to translate into rushing touchdowns, which is good, what we like. And then as long as he's got the weapons that he's putting up those passing touchdowns, why would I spend the capital on a guy to get the same outcome when even Baker Mayfield may have a higher ceiling than Stroud does based off of the rushing upside. Let's see, what else do I have? Oh, this is rather big news that I would say is that I read that they think that Evans may be back from his hamstring after the bye. I doubt it. Stephanie Bell, I listened to a podcast in the offseason. She's like ESPN training staff stuff. She said that the new meta for hamstrings is it's better to be a week late than a week early. So I would imagine that Evans is going to at least miss 2 weeks, if not more. Trey Palmer, I'll pull him up so I'm just not talking into Baker. Trey Palmer is the rookie out of Nebraska. I think he's the fastest guy in the draft class at wide receiver at 4.33. He did 72% snaps last week, only one target, 75% snaps this week, had a receiving touchdown on a fade, 3 targets, 2 receptions. Not only do I think there's a chance that not only do I think there's a bump in his usage if Mike Evans is out, I think there's a bump period in his usage, especially like a guy like this is going to take the top off defense and let Evans and Godwin work. And then, that's another dart throw during the bye weeks as a guy like him. But definitely I would probably be looking to roll him out if Mike Evans is out because that's just a fun guy to throw to. Let's see. Rashad White at 70% snaps. He's a volume RB2. Hopefully that's what you bought him for. Keyshawn Vaughn was at 30% snaps, so Sean Tucker's not a thing. And the problem with White, he's a receiving back. That's awesome. I can pull him up for you guys and I can explain this. But White's at 70% snaps, 15 carries, 56 yards, not very efficient, but he had another 3 targets for 3 receptions, 22 yards, which is more efficient. His problem is that the Buccaneers are probably not going to be a very good offense, which means it doesn't matter if he's the goal line back. He's just not going to get a lot of opportunities there. That's going to limit his upside. But the volume is going to be there. The receiving work's going to be there. That's all stuff to like. The Bucs D, they have after the bye, they have Detroit, Atlanta, Buffalo, Houston, Tennessee. So again, there are teams to like, there are teams not to like coming up for them. So you got to plan ahead that if you're gonna be owning the Bucs defense, you're gonna be having to match them up with matchups. Let's see. Moving forward to the Cardinals, I talked about this guy before. Amari De Mercado, the rookie from TCU, his snaps are up to 35%. 1 carry, 4 targets, 3 receptions. I don't know how interested anybody is with handcuffing James Conner on a bad Cardinals offense, but this is the guy to own. I watched the tape. One of the things that I saw was a design passing play on a screen to him. So I wouldn't be surprised if this turns into a running back by committee, a timeshare between the two of them. Let's see. I have Dobbs that I already talked about. Dobbs. I don't remember. So Josh Dobbs, I think I already talked about, at least in other videos. 25 points, 17 points, 23 points. That's after doing nothing against Washington, which was kind of expected. As long as they're scrappy and he can throw touchdown passes, and then the rushing work, 3 for 41 and a touchdown, 6 for 55, 12 for 48. That floor, believe it or not, Josh Dobbs has more fantasy value than CJ Stroud. That's just brass tacks. Let's see. Hollywood Brown at 94% snaps, 10 targets. That's a buy. I don't know how many people are going to fight you over him. Michael Wilson, 70% snaps. The tape was okay. He's a rookie. But the usage and everything else I like. I think there's room to grow. Ertz, 76% snaps, 10 targets. You know what you're getting if you're going to be using Zach Ertz. I don't know how many pieces of this offense I want, but they're scrappy. They're going to stick around. They're going to figure it out. They're well coached. So there's points to be had, unlike the Giants that are just horrid. I already talked about Justin Herbert. Kelly is at 60% snaps. He's inefficient, so I didn't think he was good at football. He's not good at football. Let's see. Josh Palmer's at 86% snaps. I'm probably holding him over the bye because I don't think I'm going to get him back if I let him go. Quentin Johnson is probably the opposite. He's at a season high 51% snaps, only 3 targets. Couldn't find anything on his snaps. one reception for 18 yards. Like maybe I'd pick him up after the bye just to see if he continues to progress. If the Chargers passing offense is high enough volume and he can play at all three phases, like he's a buy. It's just trying to see if it's going to happen. And I would have liked to see more usage out of him or more production. That didn't happen, but the snap share is up, and that's a big deal. So the other thing to go along with this, why I'm looking at it, is Donald Parman was hurt, the tight end, 23% snaps. Everett was at 69% snaps, only 2 targets. McKinney, the blocking tight end, was at 35% snaps. So like I could definitely see that the Chargers go 3 wide receivers and Eckler, and then they just bring in a 6 offensive lineman and McKinney on blocking downs, which is good for Quentin Johnson and Josh Palmer. Moving on to the Chiefs. If I can find my mouse cursor, Pacheco, Isaiah Pacheco is at 60% snaps. Why this is important is because McKinnon was at 31% snaps. So there's a defined role. One of the touchdown run for Pacheco was outside the red zone, and then his long pass play came on a scramble drill. So like he's going to be kind of this volume-based RB2 with, he's not going to get the passing work, which is something that we kind of need from a running back, and he's also probably not going to get the red zone work. So he's going to be very limited on how much I like him. Probably a sell. The wide receiver situation kind of explains why the Chiefs are having such a hard time. You got Sky Moore at 52 or 59% snaps and 2 targets. Rice with 46% snaps, 5 targets. Tony 24% snaps. Watson 61% snaps and 1 target. MVS 54% snaps and Justin Ross 6. I mean, you either don't know what you're doing or you're telegraphing to the defense what you are going to do. Either way, it's bad. And I think I have the Kansas City defense. Minnesota, maybe. Denver, absolutely. The Chargers, probably not. So, like, thinking ahead a week, Kansas City being rolled out against Denver is not a bad idea. And then they have Denver twice between week 6 and week 8. And pairing them with other defenses, just looking at what you have. If you own them, like probably holding on to them. The Colts, pulling this up so I can talk about the Colts. Anthony Richardson, he's on the list for league winners for fantasy MVP because of the capital most people probably spent for him. I mean, at this point, I'm not going to be surprised if he has a 400-yard passing week. He's probably going to have other 30, 40-point weeks. I don't know what to tell you about Moss and Jonathan Taylor, so don't ask. Pittman was at 95% snaps. Pierce 91% snaps. Down 73% snaps. They're all going to probably have their weeks. I don't know how predictive it's going to be, especially because it's just going to be the Anthony Richardson show. And then for tight ends, like I don't know why people keep talking about Kyle Granson. 55% snaps, 5 targets, but Ogletree did it with 44% snaps, 4 targets, 3 receptions, 48 yards, and a tug. It was his week. I like Will Mallory. He hasn't even played since he put up like 40-something yards on two receptions. So like the tight end position for the Colts is probably not going to be very predictive. I talked about the Redskins and Sam Howell already. The more he continues to push the ball vertically downfield, that means Scary Terry becomes a buy. I tried to pull up good old MCL. Scary Terry, 81% snaps, 10 targets, 8 receptions. Again, if Sam Howell is pushing the ball vertically, which he kind of is right now, then that's something I like. If you're wondering, Josh Johnson had 9 targets, so I guess he's a hold right now. Logan Thomas is kind of streamable at 79%, 3 targets. The defense is a hold. You got Chicago, Atlanta, the horrible New York Giants. So if you already have Washington, you're holding on to them. Let's see. Brian Robinson, 55% snaps. Gibson was at 38% snaps with another fumble. Like, I don't want anything to do with that backfield. So outside of maybe like streaming Sam Howell and Scary Terry, and Dawson's a hold. So the Cowboys, I know the talk of the town is how good the Cowboys defense is a running back one. I can say that like turnovers are not very, they're not something that you can bank on happening. They're just going to happen. They may be practicing it, but they're going to have a lot of weeks coming up where they don't get it. I can actually pull them up. Actually, I'll pull up Tony Pollard, showing how, again, prepared I am. So they got San Francisco, the Chargers, the Rams, Philadelphia of 4 weeks, and then they have a bye in the middle of that. Those are all probably teams that they shouldn't be able to just go out there and push around. Those are all pretty good offenses. So like the Cowboys players are probably going to, the offensive player pieces are going to have value. Just be patient with them. They are going to probably be less valuable in games that the defense can kind of take over because they're just not going to need to use them. Pollard at 53% snaps. The other news is that Rico Dowdle is probably going to be out. That's probably the handcuff. Deuce Vaughn came in at 31% snaps. It kind of shows the pecking order that's going on. And the biggest thing is Ferguson, the tight end, at 56% snaps, 7 targets, 7 receptions. He should be owned in all leagues at this point. Schoonmaker came in for 56%. So it shows the pecking order that's going on. They yanked him out in the blowout. Moving on to the Dolphins. I'll pull up this. So Tua was just under pressure. It's probably the first time he saw pressure against the Bills defense. Mostert fumbled twice. That's the type of stuff that will flip usage. A-Chain's up to 60% snaps. Like, I really like how they're using A-Chain. This is a time where I like how the sausage is made. And I'm going to ride A-Chain to the wheels come off. I don't care about Jeff Wilson. Solomon Ahmed was in for 6% of the snaps, no touches. So it's looking more and more like I would guess that A-Chain is going to be the guy going forward. So, salty. I'm salty. If you have him, you're happy. Let's see. And the Dolphins defense is streamable against the Giants coming up. The Eagles, I watched tape on this. It still looks like they're being cute. Swift at 63% of snaps, Gainwell 38. They probably have plays for both of them. Brown and Devonta 8 this week. Goddard didn't, but he played 100% of snaps. He's going to have his weeks. You just kind of have to wait it out, I guess. And the defense is probably a hold if for nothing else in their playoff schedule. I got to pull that up so I can show that. Unless I'm wrong. So you have the Giants in Arizona for the semi and the finals. So I if someone lets them go and you can start planning that far ahead, something to know about. The Falcons, my ear is to the train tracks on Taylor Heineke taking over. It's not just Desmond Ridder, it's the coaches, how they're scheming up. If you watch the second half of the Jets game with Zach Wilson, this will not be a Zach Wilson apology channel. The coaches just let Zach Wilson do what he's comfortable doing, and they were able to come back in the game. They're not even doing that with Desmond Ridder. So your only other option is Ridder's worse than Zach Wilson. I don't know. Hot take, Bijan is not an RB1. He's an RB2. He's at 76% of snaps. Algier complimented him at 26. They kind of both need to be on the field to maximize Bijan. Again, that's coaching. You want Bijan to get in those design passing plays. And I don't care about Pitts in London as long as their coaches, can't coach their way out of brown paper bag. It looks like their head coach is pouting and kind of in an argument with the front office because he doesn't want Ridder, and who knows what's going on. I don't want anything to do with that from a fantasy perspective. And back to Bijan, and I will pull this up so I can explain this. If you can find the right guy to sell and buy a different running back, design passing plays, which Bijan has, which we like. Inefficient running plays, which we kind of don't care about. That's gravy. Bijan has 1 touchdown in all these touches. And the reason behind that is that he's not on a very good offense and he's not the red zone back, because in week 1, when the Falcons were able to dictate tone, Algier was the red zone back. So if Bijan cannot get red zone work, he's not an RB1. Brass tacks. So moving forward, do with that what you will. Do not listen to my financial advice. The Giants are absolutely horrible. I watched this game over at my co-manager's house. They have no idea what they're doing on offense. I actually have this. No, this is Bryce Young. This is Daniel Jones. If it'll pull up, this is Daniel Jones week 3. This looked like a lot like Daniel Jones week 4. They're just not pushing the ball vertically downfield. That means the defense knows exactly what they're doing. They're leaving Darren Waller in to block, probably their best overall receiver. And they should be really bullying other teams by saying, this is who you're going to put on Darren Waller. Darren Waller should have 20 targets, especially with Saquon out. They're not doing that. Nothing to do with them. Nothing whatsoever. And again, as bad as they are right now, fire up any defense that plays the Giants. Let's see. The Jaguars, again, the variable of the London game, I don't know. Cam Robinson's supposed to be back. Maybe this is a team that we thought was going to be good, and they're not. Trevor Lawrence may never be like actually really good. Again, Etney's limited as an RB2 because of the same reasons I've already talked about with other players. Ridley may be fool's gold. He may be this year's A-Rob. Ingram looks good. He's either going to have a huge spike week or there's going to be a regression, and we're going to find out what he actually is. And I have the Jags playoff schedule for their defense as I pull them up. The wrong one. So the Jaguars coming down the line for the playoffs, they have Carolina, Tampa Bay in the semis and the finals. And those are like little things to look at to plan ahead. They also got Tennessee there. It's Cincinnati if they're bad. They play Pittsburgh. So there are things to like about the Jaguars coming up. So like planning on using two defenses and one to stream and one to hold. Something like that. So the Jets, again, not a Zach Wilson apology channel. He looked a lot better once the Jets started allowing him to do things that he was comfortable doing. Brees is 44%, wheels up on a bad team, so I'm either selling him or buying him. I don't know which one's a good idea. Garrett Wilson owners, like the matchup next week against Denver, like there's can't be a better matchup at this point. Tyler Conklin is hovering around streamable, but again, you're paying for what you get. On a bad Jets offense is probably going to give up. And the Jets D against Denver on the road schedule, like if you're into that type of thing, taking advantage of Denver, because I don't know how much you're going to be able to use the Jets the more they start tanking. The Lions, Goff isn't streamable at this point. Pulling him up. I typed poorly. So Jared Goff, 14, 23, 19, 12. A big problem with this is usage again. When you have a running back like David Montgomery that they're going to give the red zone usage to, it's going to lower the ceiling and the floor of Jared Goff. And there's just probably better guys that you can stream than Jared Goff. I wouldn't even be holding him at this point. Let's see. Montgomery has great value, RB2 with upside, probably an RB1 if Gibbs ever misses time. But again, he's going to be limited because Gibbs is going to take all that design passing work. Gibbs at 37% is getting what we all thought. I already did a video about all this stuff. There's going to be a spike week coming for him just based off of usage. It's really good to own backfields like this, both the two players. You can even roll them out together. And they're just going to give you a lot of 40-degree days as players. Like I don't think Montgomery's going to do another 3 touchdown game. And if someone wants Montgomery and they're willing to pay for him, why not? Jameson Williams, the other thing I forgot to talk about is I guess he upset the coaches in the offseason and he pulled a hamstring. So like I don't even know how much he's going to be in the offense when he comes back immediately. And I probably don't care. I don't even care to stash him. I think the Lions offense is good enough as it is. And they're just, between Laporta and Amon-Ra and Gibbs, I just don't know how many targets there are going to be to go around. The Packers, I watched the Jordan Love tape. I listened to some of the pundits talk about Jordan Love. I think he's fine. I don't think he's ever going to be like, a Hall of Famer, but he's fine. And as long as he's got the weapons, I don't really care. I don't care about how the sausage is made sometimes. 3 touchdown passes a game or rushing touchdown. It doesn't matter sometimes. As long as he's putting the points in the column, there's no need to worry about that. Like, I don't think he's necessarily a weekly starter. I don't know if I would go that far, but again, he's got all those coaches or those weapons, but it's a low play volume. You always got to remember that. So Watson and Jones were on snap counts that came out. Dillon's bad. I don't even think he's holdable. Dobbs is probably the actual guy to own, like something along the line of a low end wide receiver 2 at this point. Who knows? You could probably feel very comfortable like rolling him out every week. Watson and Reed will probably have their spike weeks. That's kind of what I would guess. Musgrave was practicing today. It's just bad luck. Again, he's going to have his spike weeks. I don't know how many of these guys I want to hold and just hope that I have them in the lineup when I do. Let's see. Something. I have something about Denver. I don't even know what that means. The Packers D streamable against the Raiders in Denver after the bye week, and they have an okay playoff schedule. That's what I have written down. Moving on to the Panthers, that's why I have good old Bryce Young. Again, the same looking chart as Daniel Jones, like you got to push the ball down vertically down the field. And if you're not, you're just going to get teed off on. And I don't know if this is a Bryce Young problem or a coaching staff problem, but all these little bubble screens that they had, or these quick screens that were built in, like this is not helping your quarterback because then teams just know that you're going to play within this 20-yard box, and that's just not good. So like, I don't know how much I'm buying anything. Sanders and Chuba are in a timeshare 43 to 54. You could say that's because Miles Sanders was injured. I don't care. The ghost of Adam Thielen was still 8 targets. Chark was at 92%. I didn't even bother to look up the routes on him. I don't really care because of this usage. When I saw this with Bryce Young, I don't really care. Terrence Marshall's 63% snaps, 10 targets. You can kind of see where the targets are. Again, if they're not going vertically down the field, they just don't have fantasy relevance. It doesn't really matter because then you don't get the actual plays that matter, the touchdowns and the long pass plays. And then I have a note about the Panthers D after week 7 bye. The Pats moving forward. I watched this game. It was just absolutely mauling. I don't know about any of the Pats. I don't want anything to do with them. I would probably be trading them away. Who cares? And again, it doesn't even matter if they kind of turn it around. They're never going to be good, which is going to limit everybody's upside. It's probably better to have lesser pieces of good offenses than better pieces of bad offenses. Again, with the exception of great pieces of okay offenses where all the opportunity has to go through that player. So I watched the Raiders tape with Aiden O'Connell. He looked okay. He was a rookie. The Raiders just let Mac just destroy him. Like the way to go, coaches. Let your player get eaten alive. Jimmy G may be back this week. Jacob still has like that 70% workload on a bad offense with a bad schedule. White still looks like he might be his handcuff. I don't know anything about Devontae Adams and his shoulder yet. Tyler Higbee for the Rams was at 94% snaps and 11 targets, but I think I already talked about the fact that like Cooper Kupp's going to come back and that's not going to be sustainable for Higbee. Let's see. I have a note about the Rams defense. That's probably the bigger thing. Arizona might be a usable week. Pittsburgh, especially if Kenny Pickett's out, to fire them up. So think more than one step ahead. I'm not using them against Philadelphia, but I might have 2 usable weeks out of them before they go up against Dallas. So think ahead when it comes to that. Yeah. And then Kyron Williams, 72%. He's a little dinged up, but it's probably best for his usage that Rodney Rivers takes some of the snaps away. But that usage, the passing usage, the red zone usage, that's exactly what you want. That's why Kyron Williams is probably a buy and Bijan's probably a sell. And you can write your stupid comments down there and I'll respond to them. The Ravens, like whatever, like Lamar Jackson may be super great, but they just haven't had a matchup yet. So it doesn't really matter. Gus Bus was at 69% of snaps. Drake reverted back to the practice squad. That's where he went. I watched some tape on Keaton Mitchell. I still have the same thing. Like, I don't know where he fits in. I just don't see, like, is he going to eat into Hill's work? He's not going to eat into Gus Bus's work. Like Jaleel McLaughlin, he would remind me of. I just don't know how much usage he's going to get. And I have something about Zay Flowers, like at 98%, probably just going to be a roster clog. He has to get those short routes in combination with the deep shots. Last week, he only got the deep shot. He has to get it together, and it has to be consistent for him to be really usable. Maybe have a spike week, lottery ticket, but the guy is still Mark Andrews. The Saints D, maybe you can roll them out against New England. Like I said, New England doesn't look pretty good right now, and that might be just an issue of their schedule, but who cares? Yeah, you got New England going up against the Saints, so they're probably streamable. And they may have other weeks coming up. I have written down Jacksonville, maybe Chicago, probably, maybe Minnesota, Atlanta, Carolina, the Giants, Tampa Bay in the finals. So like they're a defense that you might want to be holding. Outside of Kamara, I don't know. I watched a little bit of Olave. There was a deep shot that was either defended or pass interference. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter from a fantasy perspective. Kendra Miller wasn't a thing at 8% snaps. Tony Jones at 17, and Jamal Williams is coming back. So if you have any of those guys, the Seahawks on Monday night, Kenneth Walker's at 90 or 71% snaps. He's going to be limited, and I'll pull this up again for you guys. Somebody asked me this question about him. So Kenneth Walker, 71% snaps, 17 carries, 79 yards. That's gravy. I don't care about that. The goal line touch for the touchdown, I do care about. No passing work, bad game flow. He has been used in the passing game in other weeks, which is fine. But you, when you pull up a Charbonnet and how Charbonnet is going to eat into his workload, 24% snaps for Charbonnet, 5 carries, 31 yards. That's 3 points that aren't going to Kenneth Walker. He's going to eventually vulture something, and then he had 3 more targets for 1 reception. So again, like, it limits a guy's upside, even though he finishes an RB1 by number. His upside is going to be limited. Kenneth Walker, a fine pick, probably at his value, but it's going to be limited because of the 2 things that we kind of need. DK is a freak. I watched the tape of him shedding the guy on his touchdown catch. If you're running Lockett at flex, you probably should know by now what you're getting with flex. You're getting a flex wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, and you just got to like wait for it to happen, I guess. JSN 53% snaps, probably not going to happen this year. I'm more interested in Bobo, the camp hype guy, at 38% snaps, because he may end up getting vertical shots downfield down the line if he continues to cut into the snap share. And nobody's probably going to break out unless there's an injury to Lockett or DK. And the Seattle's defense I have has some appeal. Cincinnati after the bye, Arizona, Cleveland if they're kind of wonky because of Deshaun Jackson, maybe Washington, Tennessee, and Pittsburgh in the final. So like, planning ahead, how many weeks I'm going to get out of a defense. I'm not looking to just stream them 1 week and throw them away. I want to make sure I'm ahead and that I'm not fighting for them in waivers. Steelers, I don't have hardly anything to say. Kenny Pickett, bone bruise. It's going to be a few weeks. I don't want anything to do with anybody here, including Pickett. I don't want anything to do with Deontay once he gets back. Matt Canada's offense is horrible. I watched some tape on it. Najee and Warren are in 49% snap share split. Doesn't matter. And I don't want anything to do with the defense until after the week 8 bye. Texans, I already talked about CJ Stroud. I liked his tape a lot. I thought he was one of those guys that needed to win clean, and he doesn't. He's been playing dirty and winning. So I'm wrong. Don't always listen to me. The same problems I saw in college aren't translating so far. Damian Pierce is a buy, and this was another one. I think they ran a wheel route to him on his big catch, and this is what he was being used in college. So 59% snaps, 24 carries, 81 yards. Again, if they're a good offense, that means he's going to get red zone usage. 2 targets, 1 reception. And I think this was a design passing play. This is stuff to like, buying pieces of this offense like Nico. It doesn't matter. Tank Adele at 70% snaps, Nico at 76% snaps. You may be wrong certain weeks, but you're going to be right other weeks. So make sure you design your lineup to kind of take that away when it happens. They're going to get offensive linemen back. Like Larry Tensel's supposed to be back, I think, next week. Let's see. Robert Woods is another guy you could probably sneakily run out there. Low floor, probably low ceiling, but you can get away with it. One of the big things to take away is pick up the Texas defense and hold them. So they go Atlanta, New Orleans, bye week, Carolina, Tampa Bay, Cincinnati, who if they're bad, they're bad, and you're going to run them against Cincinnati, Arizona, Jacksonville if they're bad, Denver's bad, the Jets are bad, Tennessee's bad, Cleveland may not be very good, and you get Tennessee in the finals. So you can almost run them every week except their bye at this rate. So that's probably a good thing to be picking up coming out of the waivers. And again, buying pieces of the Texans offense is probably not a bad idea. The Titans maybe sell high on Henry. He's at 59% snaps. The guy, I'm not really interested in anything to do with bad offenses if I can get away with it, because you're going to get burned. Tajay Spears at 53% snaps, 5 carries, 40 yards. He picked up a fumble and ran with it. I don't know if that's being calculated. 4 targets, 3 receptions. So, I mean, like some of the stash, especially if you're a Henry owner or you want to be dealing with the Henry owner in a trade. Again, I'm probably selling Henry. I don't know how this offense is going to look down the line, and stuff like this from a predictive standpoint, I want nothing to do with. And then I have Tennessee after their bye week, week 7, Atlanta, maybe Pittsburgh, maybe Tampa Bay, maybe Jacksonville, maybe Carolina. And then that's it. So you get that stretch with the Titans defense that you might be able to roll them out there and be cute. And then to finish off with the Vikings, you have Kirk Cousins was doing Kirk Cousins things. Chandler, no snaps. Akers eating into Madison 29-69. I'm going to guess they're going to either be in a timeshare or go with the hot hand. So like, I don't really want either one of those guys if I can get them off my roster. And I'm willing to overpay for someone to take them from me. Let's see. And otherwise, I'm just going to ride, whoever I got into the wheels fall off. Justin Jefferson's one of those elite guys like CMC. Addison, 58% snaps. I have no idea how they're using him. He drew a pass interference penalty, if you're wondering. Osborne at 83% snaps. I have no idea why they're using him. Hawkinson is not going to be consistent because, great pieces on okay offenses is all going to go through Justin Jefferson, and you're going to get leftovers. It doesn't mean that Hawkins is not going to be a high-end tight end. It just means that you're going to have to deal with weeks like this, and I'm probably not interested in the defense at all, if you're wondering. So going back to the notes that I have, Bijan's a sell. Trey Palmer, the wide receiver for the Buccaneers, is a pickup. CJ Stroud is probably replaceable, even though I like the pieces on the Texans. I like the Texans defense going forward. And I'm trying to look to see if I missed anything. I don't think I did. Oh yeah, run all your pieces against the Denver defense at this point, because they're absolutely horrible. And I think I got. And if you can lean on the Pollard owner, if he's worried about the hype about that, lean on him and pick up Tony Pollard, CD Lamb, those type of things. Overpay for those guys. That's probably not a bad idea either. Sell Justin Fields and Purdy, Baker Mayfield, Josh Dobbs are probably better pickups than CJ Stroud. So anyway, that's about all I got for today. Maybe I'll come up with something later.